Ugh, it is too early and I'm barely awake, but I've already been up and showered, so I'm getting ready to hop on a plane. Perfect timing for a vlog, right? So this is going to be a travel weekend, meaning I won't have very much reading time. But I have some books here that I really want to get to, and I think I have time to probably read them this weekend. So this is going to be the Reading Like Dia weekend. A couple months ago, Novel Idea did several videos that highlighted books that were her favorites from each age category. And I set aside several of those books that I had on my shelves and hadn't read, and just haven't gotten to them still in a couple months. So we're gonna do that. And conveniently, I already packed the books other than the one I'm gonna read right now. They're all pretty short. This is the longest one. So the first I'm gonna get to is The Phantom Told With by Norton Juster. I really don't know anything about this. Then it's well known. I pulled it out of a little free library. So it's not in the greatest condition, but it's definitely readable. And the text is pretty big. So I think very, very doable for plain brain. So I also don't know how much reading time I'm gonna have this weekend, but I think most of the books I pulled are gonna be lighter. And I believe based on time differences, I will probably have an hour or two of reading in the mornings, maybe. So we will see how this goes. I have not really read the past 2 days, unsurprisingly. I've been exhausted, and Friday, my travel day, wound up being much more of a travel day all day than was expected. Pretty much everything that could have gone wrong really went wrong. But I got here and everything was great since I got here, but I was very, very worn out. And because everything was going wrong, my brain was not in a place to read on the flights. But I did read during the first flight, The Phantom Told by Norton Juster. This was strange. So I don't think I liked it as much as Dia, but I did really enjoy it. And I would put it probably in the category with like Alice in Wonderland, in that it's kind of a nonsense world story. We're following a boy who falls through a Milo into this world after basically being dissatisfied and grumbling about everything in his life and just feeling very generally unhappy about things. And in this nonsense world, it's very much about wordplay. So we have obviously the watchdog on the cover, and everything is about that. So there's a lot about math and sound, but as he's going through this nonsensy world, it's really him coming to appreciate everything that's around him and appreciate the things he takes for granted, just the minor things, even like talking about the sound, just all of the sound that is passively around you at all times, things like that. The ways of engaging your brain to think about things. But it is very, very nonsensy. So everything is those sort of word games and very literal interpretations of words. There are like people who go around and enforce these ridiculous over-the-top rules, but it doesn't really have any meaning, and it is a very nonsense world, as I said. So I really enjoyed this, and there are also cute pictures, but I don't really think I liked the art style. Personally, it's a little scribbly for me. But I thought this was a great read. I am very happy to have read this. This is like a children's classic, I guess. So I'm glad to finally have read this, and I did enjoy it very much. So for now, I'm checked into my room for the night. Very generic, standard hotel room, pretty much, but it's comfortable and quiet. So I will be getting a good night's sleep tonight, hopefully, and restful. And then tomorrow morning, I will probably get into a little bit of reading, at least. This morning, I was just so tired. I basically made myself lay in bed up to the point I had to get up. So just to make sure I got as much rest as possible, because I was so worn out from yesterday. So hopefully tonight I will be a little less worn down. Another day, another very tired Becca from the hotel, but I have finished the book of 3 today. So this surprised me in that it was not as dated as I expected. I have never read this series before. I've never seen The Black Cauldron either. So I kind of need to watch that now because that's based on this series. I think book 2 is called Black Cauldron, but the movie is based on this one. I could be wrong. Regardless, this is very much the traditional farm boy goes on a magical journey type of story. And we're following an assistant pig keeper, Taryn, as the farm animals are acting strange and the pig runs away. And so that's what starts his journey, is chasing after the pig, Henwin. But after that, he sort of winds up in the company of a weird assortment of characters, and there are a lot of things that are kind of silly, funny, but not in an over-the-top way. I think the humor struck with me really well. And there are some things that are, I couldn't tell if it's meant to be silly or if I just found it silly. Some of the names are silly, but are they silly because they're meant to be silly, or are they silly just because they're Welsh? Like Fluther Flam, things like that. But I think that the tone throughout was very easy to read and really fun and entertaining. Some of the writing decisions were a little strange because we skipped over some very dramatic bits. I think that's pretty common with middle grade and children's literature because this is another children's classic. And it was not quite, there were moments where it's just like, main character blacks out, That happens a lot in middle grade books. So Yeah, I really liked Gurgi, who's a very strange creature who kind of talks in a sing-songy way and is talking about smackings and crackings and crunchings and munchings, things like that, ramblings and amblings. I don't know. So he's very rhyming. He reminds me a lot of Gollum from Lord of the Rings. Obviously, he plays that role of being both a helper and a burden and making trouble for the party. But I mean, effectively, yeah, this is just a journey novel. They're trying to figure out what's going on. There's a rising big bad to deal with, that sort of thing. So yeah, it was very entertaining, not too long, and I had a great time with it. All right, so we're in a new location and more tired, but I somehow managed to come to Washington and not get rained on until today, basically entirely driving. So I had a fantastic weekend so far, or the weekend is now over, it's Monday. But I had a fantastic weekend and it was mostly beautiful, glorious weather for being out and about. So that was great. But driving today was very, very drizzly. But I did finish my third book and final book, The Golden Key by George MacDonald. And I happen to have a copy that is beautifully illustrated by Maurice Sendak. So I will put in some of the illustrations here. I think this was another little free library copy. In fact, it's a little worn and stained, but it's still fantastic. This was very good. It's also nonsensy. So all three books have been a little nonsensy, but this one is more like melancholic fairy tale kind of nonsense. Things do not follow logic for sure, but in the weird way that fairy tales do. Not silly, not humorous at all. So we're following initially a boy who hears the story of this golden key at the end of the rainbow and becomes enamored with that, kind of sets off on his journey. And so we've had a trio of stories about boys on journeys, but then we switch to primarily the story being about a little girl, Tangle, who also sets off on this journey as well, eventually. And things with this journey are very strange. They do come into possession of the golden key pretty quickly. time's passage is not normal, and so you can't really tell, are they young, are they old? They're encountering all these strange beings. They're searching for the old men of the sea, earth, and fire, I think. Eating these magical airfish. There's so much weird stuff. But it is very melancholic and deep, it feels. I think I could come away from this with a lot of different interpretations, I think. Because with this key, once they have it, they know it must have a use. And so they're looking for where does this key fit? And I think it's about the journey of life, and they do wind up searching for the land of shadows. And so, I have to assume that is a signifier for the end of life. We're moving on to something else after your life. And so we are watching them go through time in a very nonlinear way and going through an eventual passage to the unknown, I would say, that I think you can read a lot into. But yet it's still simple, that this is, again, sort of a children's classic. So it feels simple to read, but there is a lot of depth there that I think you can get into it. It's also just very beautifully and lyrically written, despite the nonsenseness of the world that we're inhabiting and moving through. And it kind of reminded me of Susanna Clarke's writing a bit. So I could see, I think I have heard her mention that she's influenced by George MacDonald before. So I like this one very much. In fact, I think this probably was my favorite of the three this weekend so far. But I liked all three. So it was a very successful, I think, reading weekend, a successful travel weekend. I had a very good time. So I think that is me winding down my trio of reading like Dia. As I said, these were all three enjoyable reads. I don't think any of these were like new favorites for me where they are for her, but I'm very, very happy to have gotten to them. And it was a big win, I think, for me. And hopefully you have gotten something out of watching me read like Dia. If you somehow do not already follow Dia, she reads so widely and across different age ranges and lots of classics and children's classics like this. So you can always find something interesting that she's talking about reading. So I highly, highly recommend going and checking out Novel Idea. I think that's it for my mid-month book bash vlog. Thank you all so very much for joining me as always, and thanks for watching.